Netflix's Emily in Paris made everyone want to drop everything and move to Paris immediately, including me. But is it really accurate to expat life? Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Melissa and I am currently repatriated back in Texas, but I was an expat overseas in Africa and South America for 7 years. I have a blog where I share with you guys from my experience and my mistakes and my hard times because I want you guys to live your best expat life. So go ahead and check it out. It's lifebymelissaandrew.com. And also be sure you're following me on Instagram so you can keep up with my daily life. And that's going to be at Melissa R. Espinosa. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to kind of go through a show that was on Netflix, or it's still on Netflix, called Emily in Paris. I watched it, I think, in November, and I kind of took some notes. And it was interesting to see how Netflix portrayed what expat life was like for Emily living in Paris versus reality. So I wanted to share with you guys today a few things that I noticed while I was watching that show. So while Netflix's Emily in Paris was a fictional take on expat life, I actually thought it was quite accurate. And let's talk about it. The first thing I noticed was that Emily experienced an immediate high when she arrived in Paris. And this definitely happens to you when you move overseas. When you first land in your new country, you're going to be like a little sponge. You're so excited. Everything is brand new, from the culture to the people walking on the street to the food. You're going to be so excited to set up your new home and figure out a new routine. And all those little things that make the country quirky, things that are different, so different from where you're from, are still really exciting in the beginning. And so when Emily experiences an immediate high when she arrives in Paris, this is definitely accurate to expat life. The next one was Emily started to feel a little bit down after a few weeks. I would say almost a month she was there, and she started to feel down about living in Paris. And I can definitely say, after having moved to 2 different countries, that this will happen to you too as an expat. You will definitely feel a little bit lower after that high. You kind of go on the roller coaster up and then you start to come down. Usually more than a few weeks, I would say a month to 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months later, you start to realize, okay, this isn't a vacation anymore. Some of those quirks are starting to become a little annoying to you, but the initial high has definitely worn off. And right around that 4 to 8 week period, you might start to feel your first low of being on expat assignment. And maybe you're starting to feel a little homesick around this time. It's definitely feeling longer than a vacation, so you're starting to miss maybe some of your family, your friends, or even coworkers that you saw each day. And all these things can kind of start to compound, the small things, and they can really start to irritate you or be frustrating before you kind of relaxed into your life in your new country. Throughout the show, Emily also starts to discover, I'll call them cultural quirks about living in Paris. After a few weeks of living in Paris, Emily starts to gain a little bit more confidence and feel better about herself. So she starts to venture out and meet more people and get in different situations that are a little precarious. One of my favorites is her shower stops working for whatever reason, and she calls a plumber, and the plumber comes, and while he's in the middle of his plumbing work, he asks for a croissant and coffee to take a break in her kitchen. And it just made me laugh so hard because it's so true that workers overseas, sometimes people that come into your home to do work or repairs, they will definitely want to take breaks. They'll want to leave and come back. The work will take multiple days. And being at least an American, I'm very used to someone coming in, doing the work, 45 minutes, an hour later, they're done and they leave. So it was just funny to see that in the show, how he wanted to take a break with the croissant in the middle of his work. It's definitely something that's definitely similar to what I experienced living in Buenos Aires as well. And these are stories about plumbers that Emily had and that I had in Buenos Aires, but it can really be about anything. Maybe you're starting to see that the hierarchy in the country is very unfair, and that really is frustrating for you. Or maybe you go to the grocery store a lot and the lines are 30 minutes long, and that's just the way it is in that country, and that can be frustrating. And the key to expat life and being happy on expat life is remembering that these are just cultural quirks to the country that you're living in. It's frustrating because it's not normal where you come from, But waiting 30 minutes in a supermarket line in Buenos Aires is extremely normal. The next thing that Emily faced as an expat was that her coworkers weren't interested in getting to know her at the beginning. And locals not wanting to accept you can be a problem sometimes when you're moving abroad. And also when you're new to a country, when you're trying to meet people, they might not know how long you're going to stick around. And that might, hinder them from trying to build a relationship with you right away. But it can take time for the local population to warm up to you. But don't take it too personally. You're a new person in their culture, so they're just trying to feel you out. Typically, when they see you trying to assimilate to their culture or do things the way they're done in that country or learn that language, then they will be super receptive to reaching out to you and becoming friends or helping you out. They definitely like to see someone coming in and trying to assimilate instead of just complaining about the country or trying to do things the way you did it in America or the UK or Australia. They really are interested in seeing someone come in and try to assimilate in their country, and I promise you will make friends that way. At one crucial point in the show, Emily felt like everything was going wrong. And I can say after 7 years abroad, there are definitely many times when you will feel this way as an expat as well. I can remember one time very specifically, vividly in my head. I had a really bad day at work, and it was really more expat life in general. And on the way home, I asked my driver we were going to KFC to get chicken after work because I had a bad day, and that was my way of self-soothing, was eating KFC from America. It made me feel better. But when we got there, my husband went in to get the chicken, and I asked my driver to please step out of the car. And when he got out of the car, I locked the doors and I cried and I cried and I cried. It was just a terrible day. I'd had a really hard day. And sometimes that just happens. That just happens. Expat life can be really difficult. You are in a foreign country where you don't know a lot of people, you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, and sometimes it's just difficult. But when you're feeling this way, or maybe if you're watching this video, you're feeling this way right now, I just want to tell you that it will go away and things will get better. And I promise you, everything is not going wrong. There's just a few cultural things that might be hard for you to get used to, and you probably miss your home. As an expat, each day really gives you a new challenge, and you just have to work through it. And you are going to be tough enough, and you're going to get through those challenges each day as they come to you. So go ahead, do like I did, have yourself a big ugly cry, and then pick yourself back up and do it again the next day. And expat life will get easier the longer that you do it. All right, guys, I've got one more way that Netflix's Emily in Paris is just like real expat life. But before I talk about it, be sure to go below and give me a thumbs up or hit that like button. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. That way we can get this video out to more people that are considering becoming an expat. And also be sure to hit that red subscribe button. That way you'll get notified when I release more videos about expat life. All right, the final thing I noticed while watching Netflix's Emily in Paris was Pasible was something Emily heard a lot. And this one made me laugh so hard, you guys, because Pasible means not possible in English. And it made me laugh so hard because it's so incredibly accurate. I cannot tell you how many times I heard that something wasn't possible living in Angola and Argentina. And this mostly happens when you're ordering at a restaurant. In Angola, they never had anything that I wanted to order. And it got so bad, or it was bad the entire time, that typically when I went to a restaurant, I always had a second choice and even a third choice from the menu, because there was, I would say, at least a 50% chance, maybe higher sometimes, that the first item I wanted, they weren't going to have in stock or available. So I always had backup items just to make sure that I wasn't disappointed when the waiter said, no, we don't have that. So I used to be a cynic and think, oh, they're just being rude, or they don't want to check, or I'm an expat and I'm a foreigner and they don't want to deal with me. But then this happened. One time in Angola, we were eating with some friends at a restaurant, and these people ranged, there were some South Americans there, there were some Australians there, and of course Americans. I'm American, and a few others as well. And one of my American friends ordered a sandwich and asked for no pickles. And then a South American friend said, "Oh, that's so American of you. Only Americans, special order things or take things off menu items or want to swap things out." And that day at the table, we had a long discussion about how it was really the majority of Americans that do this. And so it really made me kind of change my perspective on things where I used to think, oh, the waiter's just being rude, or I was real cynical about it. Now I kind of realize, especially after traveling to so many countries and living in 2 other countries, that it really kind of is an American thing to swap things out or request special things at a restaurant. And so, especially when I'm overseas, I try not to do that. I try to just order the exact item that's on the menu because I realize that it's kind of a cultural thing as an American to switch things out and to change things. So, if you move to Paris like Emily did, don't be surprised if you hear Pasible while you're ordering food. All right, there you have it, guys. The way that Netflix's Emily in Paris is actually super comparable to real expat life. But let's be real, her love life, her career, her crazy Instagram following was a lot more fictitious. All right, guys, that is this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new about expat life, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.